this for me. Then 21, can you do something for me? Drop some bars to my.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into Alarm Fantasy Football. Deja vu all over again, right? You're just seeing the same faces just churning around here. But what are we doing? We're giving you some of the elite fantasy football content that you need to win this year, and we do that using the help of our Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide, which is loaded up with content. There's tons of content in there. There's tons of content still to come. There's stuff that came out today that we're going to introduce you to here. So I bring you Britt Flynn, and I bring you Andrew Cooper. So I mean, right off the bat, I'm bringing you two of the top fantasy football analysts in the game right now. And how's everyone doing? Britt, I haven't seen you since since 5 o'clock this morning my time. How's your morning been?
Yeah, it's been good. The dogs have been chill, thank goodness. I think that they're tuckered out from all the fireworks last night, and the cats have too. So I've had an unusually quiet house today, so it's been great.
That's always nice. Absolutely. When everybody in the family at home is chewing on Xanax bars, it's always going to relax everybody. Coop, it's been literally a minute since I've seen you. Tell the world how you're feeling today.
You know, it has been a minute, and during that minute, I've had a lot of time to reflect, Howard, on our relationship, and I truly believe this is going to be a great show. The last show, that was a show. That was a show, but this is going to be a great one.
Well, I'm here.
We're talking, we're going, because with this one, we can talk about the draft guide. We can give people some freebies from behind the paywall and see if they want to get in there and check it out. And we also got, our angel, Britt Flynn. So love it.
There you go. Absolutely. We encourage all the commentary in the chat. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Gator. T-Man back for some action. He was with us yesterday. Signed up for the Fantasy Alarm All-Pro subscription. Took advantage of the 4th of July celebration that we were doing yesterday. And T-Man, I heard you emailed support today or last night. So kudos to you for that. We're going to see if we can make it happen for you there.
T-Man, one of the beautiful people now. Welcome. It's like going to Michael Rubin's white party. That's what it's like when you get that membership. You're rubbing elbows now, baby. See you in the Discord. Is he set up with the Discord?
He should be set up in the Discord. Yeah. T-Man, if you're not properly set up in the Discord, hit up Coop at Coop A Fiasco on the old Twitter machine there. Britt is at Britt_Flynn, FLINN. They should be right here at the bottom. Maybe not today. What are you gonna do? Good morning, Scott Frankel. Welcome to the world today. I hope you had a lovely night at work last night, and we're always great to see you guys here. We've got some great stuff to talk about. We're gonna play a little Would You Rather, a little ADP Would You Rather later on here in the show. We're also going to talk Superflex draft strategy. I think that's definitely worth a major conversation. Only an hour show today. We've been going 2 hours the last 2 days, but just the 1 hour. So we'll see if we can get it in there. But if not, we will continue to put out these shows over the next couple of days for the rest of the week as well. So let's start it off here with our newest, our most exciting article that has come out today in the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide, which you can get at fantasyalarm.com/draft guide. And you can just get in on that. You can get it on its own for $26.99. It comes with the cheat sheet. You can also get it as part of the All-Pro subscription, which, again, fantasyalarm.com/draft guide. Use that promo code Howard for not only your free trial, your free 7-day trial, but you can also get 6 months off. Or 50% off your first 6 months. There's so many stuff going on. I'm still like in yesterday's mode here. Britt, I don't know how you kind of keep everything straight with us. But here, Britt, your article today, Training Camp Battles. I won't say it's a Leviathan, but it's a pretty hefty article. Definitely took me 2 sittings to get through.
There's a lot to talk about.
There's so much to talk about here. Why don't you highlight a couple of things?
2 sittings. Come on now.
So when I went through, I basically just I looked at everything at first and then made, my spreadsheet because I love spreadsheets. And then the more and more I thought about it, I was like, oh, I forgot this battle. Oh, I forgot this battle. oh, I forgot this one. And then you look at teams where it's not just a battle between, like in Seattle with Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba, it's the Giants, and you have literally everybody in their wide receiver room competing for that number one spot. And then it has to go a little bit long because you have to talk about literally everybody on their team. But yeah, a lot went into it. It's all just speculative at this point because, as we know, training camp is still 2 weeks away, but it's still something to think about. And I kind of went through, gave the highlights from last year. If they're rookies, I gave highlights of their college career and gave my pick on who I thought was going to emerge victorious in the depth chart battle.
I'll tell you this, Britt. I looked at last year, John and Pemba did this article, and I looked at his last year, and then looking at yours, I believe that you, with the effort you put into this, have signed yourself up for doing this article moving forward. Because as good as John's was last year, you took this to another level.
To a whole other level.
Another level. So you owned this one, and lucky for you, you own this one forever. So
Hooray.
You are now the training camp. I don't want to step on John's toes. I know he's on vacation.
Oh no,
right now.
step away.
Yeah, but you own this one, and this one belongs to you. This is a good article.
It's a fantastic article, no doubt about it. Absolutely love it. You know what? I mean, let's just, for like you just got the synopsis here. We'll dive in a little bit more intricately. I'll get from each one of you here. Britt, what training camp battle intrigues you the most? Is it that Seattle situation, or is there more?
It has to be. One of them is the Seattle situation. I have two, but when I was at the NFL draft, I was waiting on Brian Branch to come into the press room. And of course, he was the only one left there. So it took forever. And we were watching the draft as it played out. The audible gasp that happened when Zach Charbonnet was drafted, and nobody knew why. They were like, they have Kenneth Walker. Why did they take Charbonnet? And the room erupted in hushed whispers. And then you've got all of this coach speak from Pete Carroll saying that Charbonnet is a complete back and blah, 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 blah. And we saw what Kenneth Walker did last year. I'm so interested to see how this plays out and which one wins out. I think my cat's scratching on the door. I was like, did my headphones go out, or is that the cat?
I thought you were pausing because Gator's like, Britt, ask for extra vacation time. You've got leverage. She doesn't have leverage.
He didn't mean mid-take, Gator. He didn't mean mid-take, Britt. Britt's just like,
all right, hey, I'm out.
The rest of us take behind the paywall from us, right?
Listen, nobody's allowed to take vacations anymore. That's it.
I had my one day.
My damn it.
That's right. Yeah, I took 1 day, and man, I feel like I'm a million miles behind here catching back up. No more vacations. Bill Belichick mode.
Well, let's catch you up. So if Britt loves that Seattle running back situation, is going to be a hot training camp battle to sit and watch over the next 2 months. Coop, what about you? Pick one training camp battle that you are going to be eyeballing the absolute closest.
Yeah. So what's interesting, we just talked last show. Go back and if you haven't seen it, listen or watch the Quick Out podcast because we talked in depth about the New York Giants situation. So I'm not going to get into that now because that's such a big mess. But I think the one that's going to have the biggest impact in terms of upside is also with Seattle, and it's the wide receiver battle where hopefully we don't always get these answers, but hopefully somebody comes out, one of the beat writers, and says, "Okay, DK Metcalf is the split end. It looks like it's Jackson Smith and Jigba playing in 2 wide receiver sets and Tyler Lockett's coming out." Or they say, hey, I think JSN, he's going to start off slow. He's going to play the slot, but Tyler Lockett's still the guy outside. He's still the guy in goal line. Whichever person gets that role, or assuming there is a role and they don't just mix and match the whole time, whichever person gets that role has crazy upside. Tyler Lockett, in 4 years since DK Metcalf has been on the team, has outperformed his ADP every single year. He was like the wide receiver 13 last year, right? 13. Like if he was 12, then we'd all be saying he was a wide receiver 1. But because he was 13, he's just, a wide receiver 2 on his team and a wide receiver 2. Whoever gets that role, it's huge. And sometimes rookies start off slow. Chris Godwin, people forget, a couple of years there, he was stuck behind Mike Evans and like Deshaun Jackson, and Adam Humphries and those guys, right? Even though he's an amazing player. So if JSN comes out and they say, hey, this guy's the guy, he's him, he's the dog, then I'm moving him way up. But if the news is that Tyler Lockett's the guy, now we just keep collecting that same old Tyler Lockett value that we've been getting year after year after year. That is one battle where the winner of that battle is going to be getting targets.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. For me, I'm going to go to Kansas City.
Yeah.
Coop, I know you've got money on Rashee Rice to be the offensive rookie of the year. We've looked at this receiving room. You've got Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney, who are very, very similar players. Both excel out of the slot. You look at the outside, you've got Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I don't know, maybe. But then you've got Rashee Rice, who's the receiver coming out of SMU. I think he's got great speed. I think he can stretch the field. I think he can be that deep threat. Now, I know that our friends over at Sharp Fantasy Football put out a tweet today citing the decline of average depth of target for Pat Mahomes and how it's dwindled each year over the last 4 seasons. Is that a Mahomes issue, or is that an issue with the fact that they really haven't had anybody in that receiving core? When was the last time you saw a high-end wide receiver with Kansas City? Juju wasn't that guy last year, and neither was Sky Moore. They traded for Kadarius Toney, and he got hurt immediately. So I look at this, and and one of the things that I like to see is where some of these kids, where they're going to land in the target share of this team. We know Kelsey's the number 1 guy, but who's the receiver that they're really going to rely on the most? And I think that we could see a nice increase in passing yards or average distance, average air yards for Pat Mahomes, knowing that he's got Rashee Rice over there. So if he and Rice are on the same page this training camp, I love that pick.
I'm with you, Howard. Not just because I have money on it. Like, we saw what Tyreek Hill was. Explosive playmaker, could make guys miss, could create in space. They haven't had that since then. Not even close. So we know MVS isn't going to be that. If MVS, he's played, imagine being DJ Moore and having to look over at MVS and the guys that DJ Moore's played with, and MVS is playing with Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. I would be like, come on, man. Give me 1 year. DJ Moore, give him 1 year with one of those guys, right? But I look at it and I say, who could be explosive? I think Sky Moore. They've come out and say Sky Moore is going to play the Juju role. Good. That's good for Sky Moore. He is a Juju type guy, and that's kind of boring to me. To be honest.
Juju had such a game breaking role last year, right?
Yeah, they're like he could be Juju. Okay, great. Like that. Thank you for letting me know that I don't want him. Right.
Britt, KC wide receivers, yay or nay? What do you think?
Yeah, and if you look at another thing that Rice really excelled at, his vertical ability and his ability to come down with contested catches. He might not be the fastest guy. He might not be the best at separating, but his vertical ability is so good. And you know how Mahomes just loves to throw those balls just up for grabs. Hey, guys, go get it. And I think Rice is the guy who can go get it. So I'm pretty excited about him.
I love the commentary we got going on over here. Yes, T-Man Juju was poo-poo last year.
Yeah.
Scott Frankel, we are all dreaming of the day that Kadarius Toney can stay healthy. I don't think that's ever going to happen. And yeah, redraft, give me Lockett, Dynasty, JSN, Gator. It's like you're inside our heads right now. I think we're pretty much on that run there. And hey, welcome to the party, Mr. Scampers. Always nice to see Scampers out over here. A couple of news items around the NFL that we can kind of touch on here. For some reason, I don't know who put this into the doc, but this Jerry Jacobs commentary from the Lions, who put that in there? Who put that fluff piece, that popcorn headline in there for me?
That was me, because it's hilarious.
Shock the world. Tell us about it.
Shock the world. Yeah, he thinks that the Lions are a brand new team, that Goff is the best thing since sliced bread, and that the Lions are going to shock the Chiefs in week 1. And I'm like, I'm happy for your confidence. That's always good. Like, 2 thumbs up for you. But I don't think that there's any way that the Lions can beat the Chiefs. They still have so many holes on their defense. It's silly, but we're in this point in the off season. We're right before training camp. Everybody's silent. And so we're just looking for any little shred of something to talk about. And I just thought that it was funny.
Yeah, my dog barking. I was wondering why the dog was barking in the background. Now I realized that Mr. Scampers joined the chat. So it's getting on there. And Chris Sellers said, sorry, I'm driving my route, so can't contribute to the chat like usual. That's actually great news, Sellers. Just, why don't you just cruise along? Yeah, wow. I would tell you, Sellers. Hey, Sellers is kind of a best ball monster, man, and a favorite amongst. He's like the analyst favorite, is he not, Howard?
He is the analyst favorite. We love him here. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cheers. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
All right. From the popcorn headline there for the Detroit Lions, ready to shock the world. We've got Sam Darnold, who seems to be taking some first team reps here in San Francisco. We don't know what's up with Trey Lance. We know that Brock Purdy is dealing with the elbow and his recovery from surgery. Sam Darnold, okay, you take him off of the Jets. I'm not going to lie. I think that a nutless monkey could be the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, and they could still have success for that. So if Sam Darnold has this job week 1, are either one of you drafting him?
Well, the headline came out and said that he's a work in progress, which if a nutless monkey can do it, then what does that make Sam Darnold? If he's having trouble picking up this offensive system,
his boys will drop soon. Don't worry.
They're in real trouble because Lance has not shown that he can be the guy. Sure, everyone wants to talk about, but he's got rushing upside. I don't care. He can't complete a damn pass. I mean, they're in real trouble if Purdy can't come back, and there's going to have to be a fast learning curve for them to be NFC West champions if they've got quarterback troubles.
Yeah, I'll say this, that Superflex, and we're going to get to Superflex today, I believe, Howard, but Superflex really, truly is it's 2 QB. We've yet to actually come up with a 1.5 quarterback league. Superflex, like, unless you nerf quarterbacks a bit in some way, it's not really, truly you really need the 2 quarterbacks. So in a format like that, whoever the quarterback is for the 49ers, we like them. In a 1 QB format, I can't possibly fathom a world where I have a bench spot even for Sam Darnold.
No. In redraft leagues and single QB leagues, I don't even like taking that second quarterback. If I'm, even if I'm fishing through like Daniel Jones, who's coming off the board at QB 14. If the rest of the league is not drafting, if everybody else doesn't have a second QB, or if a couple of teams don't have a second QB, I'm perfectly fine not doing it, because who's the first cut? If something happens, there's going to be a ton of people. And if anybody drafts Mahomes or Allen or Hurts or anybody like that, and they draft a second quarterback, I mean, that's putting them at a disadvantage, I think, because I think you're wasting a bench spot. You might as well just, round it out and wait until Kenny Pickett is available on waivers and grab him for their bye week. So
bingo. You're outside of your mind if you draft Josh Allen and draft another quarterback, unless you have like 10 bench spots, right? And
right.
I will do it if I will do it if there's a guy that's just a complete huge upside mystery box, but those days are kind of gone, right, Howard? Like the days of taking Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson as your QB2 are kind of over. Anthony Richardson gets drafted, right? He's going like 10. If a guy like Anthony Richardson in your hometown league doesn't get drafted, he's just sitting there, that's the guy I throw on the bench. Or even maybe a Trey Lance just to see because the rushing upside. But beyond that, for me to have a second quarterback, they need to just be a complete high risk, crazy high reward play. Otherwise, what's the point of having?
Yeah, I'll take Bryce Young super late in a draft as a second quarterback with some upside. I did the SiriusXM Independence Day Invitational on Monday night, and I couldn't believe it because people were taking, some people were taking a second QB, some people weren't. I started promoting our dynamic tier rankings. And what did I do? I grabbed Daniel Jones, and then I'm sitting there and I'm watching this draft fall out, and there's no kickers, no defenses. It's like the second to last round, and Tua still sitting there on the board. And I was like, really? So let me talk about these dynamic tier rankings and talk about upside versus safe. And how is I'm sitting here with Tua, who the only knock that people have on Tua right now is if he can stay healthy. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle.
We preach all the time to not worry about injuries that could happen because it's the NFL. An injury can happen to any player at any given time. If a player is already injured, that's different. But Tua is coming into the season healthy, and he's got 2 crazy dynamic receivers. He's in a very pass-happy offense. I don't see why people are so out on Tua. It's kind of insane to me.
Shh.
I know. Let's only for you guys.
I want you to know that, guys. I want you to know that Giants fan Scott Frankel is defending Daniel Jones.
He doesn't need to defend Daniel Jones. Nobody's hacking on Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is a perfectly competent QB that I am perfectly happy with. He's got some rushing upside. He'll throw some passes. Hopefully they get Saquon Barkley more involved in the passing game. I'm fine with that. I'll tell you what. I mean, we might as well sit here because we're talking QBs. We might as well just transition right into the Superflex draft strategy. And listen, there's an article in the Fantasy Alarm NFL Draft Guide that you guys can definitely go and check out. I think it's a great piece written by John and Pemba, and you can talk Superflex draft strategies all you want. I mean, let's for you guys here, and let's say Scott Fishbowl notwithstanding, because we know that you've got so many people in the Scott Fishbowl that everybody goes quarterback happy. With that. But if you're talking about like a regular, just, hey, I'm here at a 12-team Superflex draft, like what's your initial thought process here? I'll start with Coop on this one. You jump into a draft, you find your draft spot, you're looking at it. What's the first thing that you're thinking about when it comes to Superflex draft strategy?
Okay, the very first thing I think about is, hopefully I've played in this league before and I know what the draft within the draft is like. That's what because in these Superflex leagues, there's a draft within the draft. There's the moment that the quarterbacks are gone and then the draft keeps going. But if you miss that boat completely, you might as well not even draft. Like, you have to know how it's going to go. Because in some leagues, everyone's thinking like, oh, I'm going to wait, get value at QB. In some leagues, the draft starts with 3 rounds and then the QBs are all gone. So you got to try, if it's a brand new league, you got to play it straight. But if you know your league, know if you need to reach or not, right? So that's the very first thing, is like, know the draft within the draft. Because you mentioned the Scott Fishbowl. How early is that quarterback draft over? 4 rounds? 5?
Oh, yeah,
5 rounds?
At least. And everybody finishes with like 3 QBs at that point too. I mean, it's Britt, I'll ask you. So, all right, because I do think that, and I think strategies do change based on draft position. Obviously, you have to read the room properly. But let's say, Britt, you've got a top 5 pick in this draft. I'll put you at 3rd. How about that? I'll put you. You got the 3rd pick in a draft. You kind of assume that Mahomes and Allen are probably gonna go 1 and 2 because that's really what everybody does. Where are you at? Do you go position player or do you ride this Jalen Hurts train and take a QB?
No, I think if you've got the opportunity to take one of those high-end QBs, that you do it. And this is why. The drop-off in points scored from even the QB1 to the QB5 last year was 113 points. 113 points. 11 out of the 15 top players were all quarterbacks. And if you have that positional advantage that you can go up there and grab that guy, you do it. I don't care. You just suck it up and you do it. Then you can kind of build your team around, because so many people are grabbing at quarterbacks and panicking because the first 3 are already gone. So, oh my God, I have to get a quarterback before they're all gone. That you can get some real good value on some good positional players later. If you're in a late draft spot, and I'll talk about this later because I actually just did one like this, then you'll have to go with a different strategy.
Coop, does draft position matter for you? Are you grabbing that elite QB at the top end of the draft, or or better yet, if you're in the back end of that draft, and let's say 4 QBs, we'll say Hurts, Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow. Let's say those 4 guys come off the board. You're at like pick 9 or 10 in your draft. Are you thinking, I got to make sure that I hit that QB position, and you grab like a Trevor Lawrence type guy, or are you thinking, what, if you're going to leave me all of this tasty, delicious wide receiver, running back value here at 9 or 10, that's kind of the direction you need to go?
That's the entire game. And I'll tell you this, for the sake of your own mental health out there, people listening, especially if you do random draft order the day of, sit down and make a list. of the quarterbacks you would draft before you would draft Justin Jefferson. Make that list and stick to it and feel really good about it, because you're gonna beat yourself up without going in without that plan. It feels so much better when you say to yourself, I'm drafting these 6 quarterbacks and then I'm drafting Justin Jefferson. And then they pull that number out of the hat and you say, oh, I got one of my QBs. Or you say, great, I'm taking this guy and I'm sticking with it and I feel good about it. That way you don't have to play that Justin Jefferson, Trevor Lawrence game. Take a little bit to think about it right now. There's about 6 guys that I like, and then I'm going Jefferson, Chase, CMC even, and then I go back to the quarterbacks. So that's where I'm at with it. But anybody out there, like, think about it yourself and feel how you feel about guys. If you don't like Joe Burrow, take him out, because that's your team, right? These guys are locked in, huge investment. So that's what I do, and I would encourage everyone to do that for themselves, because otherwise you'll kill yourself doing it.
Yeah, Britt, how many QBs do you have in your, on your list before you start looking at Jefferson, Chase, McCaffrey, that crew?
I think 4. I think you're probably right.
4.
Maybe 5. Maybe Lamar slides in there, but personally, I don't know if he can stay healthy. So I've got, the top 4 in there, but when I did,
who are you for?
I mean, the 4,
Mahomes,
Patrick,
Hurts,
4,
Allen,
and Burrow.
and then Burrow.
I'll even reach on Burrow, because Burrow had a bad season early on last year with that Super Bowl hangover. And he had so many interceptions and was kind of inefficient and just all over the place. And the last half of the season, he just crushed, even without Jamar Chase for a few games. I mean,
I don't see how people can have Burrow without having Herbert. How can you slice it that so thinly? I think that it's close enough. Herbert was third most passing yards last year. The way I look at it for me is that I have Lamar Jackson and Herbert and Burrow in mind. That's why I have 6. I feel like if you're taking one out, you got to take the other out.
that's because Brandon Staley is a ding dong.
Classic.
No love here for Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. It's position players instead of those guys, huh?
Well, I'll tell you what. If you're going to go that far, then you might as well go. You might as well go to 8, right? Because if you're gonna have, if you're gonna have Hurts and Lamar in there, and then you might as well have Fields. And if you have Herbert and Burrow, then you might as well have Lawrence. That's where I draw the line. But hey, if you're going there, you might as well go to 8. I think the big line that gets drawn is probably at Dak and Deshaun Watson, right? That's where
it's actually not though. It's not though. So if you look at the top 5 quarterbacks, I already mentioned there was a difference in 113 points between quarterback 5 and quarterback 12 last year. The difference was only 34 points.
Oh,
literally 34 points.
Herbert's going to be way better this year. Herbert's going to be way better with Kellen Moore, though. Those are last year's points. I think we played last year league.
I think that it can change, and there's definitely some possibility. But think about going back and who you're going to be able to get on the back end.
Yeah.
How many points are you going to lose? So you're going to get that positional advantage at a wide receiver 1, and then you're still going to get a decent QB 1, and then on your way back around on the turn, you just get a real high-end QB 2, and it works out perfectly.
That's why you got to know your league, though, because the wide receivers coming back could be pretty good.
Definitely be pretty good. Well, so how do you guys feel about multiple QBs in your first 3 picks of a Superflex draft? Is that a must for you, Britt? You were picking 3rd. You got yourself your Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen, whatever. You see a little bit of a QB run. But nothing too alarming or anything like that. Do you stay position player, or do you look and say, you know what, I could turn around here and grab myself? I'm going to look for a name here that might be. Well, you're a Cowboys fan, so I might as well just throw Dak Prescott out there. Like if you're looking at and you're seeing that, Dak Prescott is there. I want to go to the overall here because this will actually be a little bit more interesting for me. So you've got your top QB. It comes back around, and you're looking at Dak Prescott, or you're looking at possibly Stephon Diggs. You're looking at Tony Pollard. You're looking at maybe Jalen Waddle. These guys are there. Do you grab one of those guys and then think quarterback for your 3rd round, or do you grab that second QB right there and then kind of attack in the 3rd?
I think that I would go ahead and grab another quarterback in that situation and just solidify that positional advantage, especially since, like I said earlier, 11 of the 15 top fantasy producers last year were quarterbacks. If you've already got that spot and that quarterback is staring you in the face, you do it. If not, and if there's somebody lower who maybe has a little bit lower floor, like Kirk Cousins, for example, that you don't necessarily know how he's going to perform. Is he going to throw 4 interceptions a game? And or is he going to just light it up? You don't know with him. Then I would go positional player, but it all just depends on who's really on the board for me.
Right. Okay.
I've played so much single QB that like my brain can't process the double tapping QB. I always look at my team at the end and I'm like, where are my good players? Like, what is this team? Like my brain just it can't enjoy the 2 quarterbacks. Like I can't. My brain doesn't like it. Like I'm like, where my running back 1 is Josh Jacobs. Like who did I pick first? Like I hate it. I do not. I'm willing to do it because you got to put your biases aside, but I'm drafting against my own brain when I do that.
But do you find it tougher in the back end? Like you're back at 9th or 10th there, Coop, and you take a position player first, then you take a QB with your second.
That feels better. That feels better.
That feels better to you.
At the back half, if you double tap at the swing, because people love doing that. They love saying, oh, I'll draft 11. I'll just double tap QB. Mm-hmm. You got to remember, your next pick is pick what? Like 38?
Well, that's the thing. In the 3rd round, it's coming all the way back around. You're going to end up. But then there's the question of, are you concerned that by the time it comes back around to you for the 3rd round, that, I mean, and again, this is, you got to read the room. That's the most important thing, is you have to read the room in your draft. But, you get people who just kind of, they come into that panic mode that if they're like, if I don't take 2 QBs at the back end of this draft right from the start, come back around for the 3rd round, for the 3rd round pick. And I'm looking at, I don't even know who I'm looking at here. It ain't pretty. And you're looking at probably like, I'm going to my QB rankings right now.
You're looking at reaching.
So
as we speak.
You're looking at like, it's like Cousins and Geno and Dan Jones.
No, literally, that's what I was about to say. So I had the 12th pick in a dynasty startup draft earlier, like a few months ago. I was the 12th pick, and I was one of 2 people who didn't draft a quarterback in the 1st or 2nd round because everybody was so quarterback hungry. And I was like, I'm not going to reach. I'm going to take some positional players here. So I took CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown, and I ended up with Cousins and Geno, literally.
Oh,
I think
that's
who I ended up
that's
with.
rock solid. I love
good.
that.
And in a dynasty, it doesn't work as well because obviously I'm going to have to fill in my drafts. But for a win now team, I mean, that works really well.
But
so
see,
it just all depends.
If you're doing startup dynasty, Britt, what's wrong with taking Cousins and Rodgers, and be in a win now mode here? You can grab other position players because next year there are going to be another 5 rookie quarterbacks, and everybody's going to hone in on the running backs and the wide receivers. That depending on wherever you pick in that 1st round, you're probably going to be able to get a younger quarterback to help build your roster there. I don't really,
Yeah, I kind of liked my team, and I was able to actually get Devontae Adams in there too.
I'll tell you what, if people ask me for my dynasty rankings to use in their draft, then they're going to look like typical dynasty rankings. The dynasty rankings I use for my drafts, they look like redraft rankings because I play to win. I don't play to lose. I'm not a loser. Like, I'm good at this. I'm going to play to win, and I'm going to play to win, and I'm going to win, and I'm going to put the name on the trophy and the money in my pocket, and then I'll just keep drafting good players because it's not that hard. You can't – the thing about Dynasty is that you can't take my picks away unless I trade them. So even if I win, I still get a 1st-round pick. I still get a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick. It's towards the end of the draft, but it's not the end of the world. You can win now and win later. If you lose on purpose now, then you can only maybe win later, but you can't win now. I'm setting myself to do both. And Scott Frankel, he agrees with me. So that means the world's coming to an end later today.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's wrap up the Superflex talk here, the QB talk, with a quick question here from T-Man. What do you guys think of considering Desmond Ridder in the later rounds? He's got London, Pitts, and Robinson now, and should have the offensive playbook down pat this year. Are we in or out on Desmond Ridder? Britt, you go first.
I actually don't hate him. I was touting his upside last year because what we saw at Cincinnati, he's got 4.5 speed. I mean, he can run as fast as a receiver,
Kittle
as a quarterback. I mean, and as much as this offense values running and rushing plays, I think that he's going to have a solid floor. So he's a little risky. I would prefer him more in best ball than I do in a redraft or a dynasty, but I think he's got upside for sure.
I'll see with guys like Sam Howell and Ritter. The one concern I have is in best ball is that I can't make adjustments to my roster. I can't drop him if he gets benched for Taylor Heineke. So I actually like him in redraft where I can pick him up and then scramble for Heineke if he gets benched. In dynasties where I don't like him as much because he's a 3rd round pick. It's an uphill battle already, and we saw what happened with Davis Mills. Davis Mills came out and had a couple 300-yard passing games, and now he is dust. So you got to be very careful with those guys. This is Desmond Ritter's chance right now. When you're a 3rd round pick, you get one chance, man. And it can even go pretty well. But if the team stinks, then you're going to get replaced. So,
well, the team stunk last year, and he averaged with Drake London 83.5 yards a game.
Marcus Mariota got replaced. So that was Marcus Mariota's chance last year, and he got replaced. Now it's Desmond Ritter's.
With Ritter, when he filled in for Mariota, Drake London averaged 84 yards a game.
Well, Drake London he was picked like 5th overall, so he's not getting replaced. He doesn't have to do it 1 year.
That's not what you're talking about. You're missing the point, Coop. It's
what's the point?
Over your head right
What's
now.
the point?
The point is that Ritter and Drake London together is actually a solid match.
There you go. Britt Flynn thinks Desmond Ritter's good, and you like him. Then, well, of course, in that case, then you draft him in all your dynasty leagues.
All right.
Me personally,
cut that audio. Britt Flynn saying you got to stack Falcons in your roster for your best balls. You got to get that Ritter.
You're trying to get me
London
fired.
That's what happens, Britt. That's what if you want to assert that you like Desmond Ritter. We all heard you. You love Desmond Ritter.
Dustin wants to know. Here we go. Coop, Ritter or Sam Howell?
Desmond Ritter, dude. Sam Howell is like Desmond Ritter, except he runs a 5 flat.
Yeah, Desmond Ritter
with like giant clown shoes. All right, so there we go, guys. Check out the article in the Fantasy Alarm NFL Draft Guide, the Superflex Draft Strategy article from John Impemba. He's not just a GQ model; he is indeed somebody you need to follow. And check out that strategy article in there. While you're at it, get yourself the full Fantasy Alarm NFL Draft Guide for this year. FantasyAlarm.com/draft guide. And that you can buy it on its own, or you can go in and you can get the All Pro subscription. Use that promo code Howard to get 50% off your first 6 months. And then what you can do is you can take it all for a free spin for 7 days. Check it all out, and then sign your life away to us. We'll take a quick time out. We're going to come back. We're going to play. How about a little ADP? Would you rather? Britt set up some really nice pairings. We'll discuss those right after this message from our friends over at RT Sports.
Kenneth Walker currently has an ADP of 32, and it's not that I don't think he's the most talented, but the situation is not great for him this year. Seahawks just drafted Charbonnet in the 2nd round. They're going to be using Charbonnet just as much as I think Walker with that offense. You don't draft a running back in the 2nd round and not use them. So that's definitely a concern. And Seattle, they're going to have an electric offense, but there are so many mouths to feed. You got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN, and Charbonnet, and then Walker. So, I mean, those are 5 elite players that all need to get fed in that offense. So the volume is definitely a concern for me there. Again, I got him in the Champs League at 45, which that was just too far for him to drop in value-wise, which is why I took him. But currently being drafted at an ADP of 32, it's just too early for me.
I agree with that. And sometimes players are better in different formats, and I think all those Seahawks, I feel better in a best ball format.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you just don't know when those big games are going to hit. They're going to hit. You just don't know when they
hit. If you're in a standard league, you want more of a safer play, and you don't want those boomer bust plays.
All right, I'm gonna talk about another player that is on a new team as a bust, and I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets. I think a move to New York is going to be a positive for Rodgers, getting a chance to play with a little better talent around him offensively, especially at receiver, than he has the past few years with Green Bay. But you just can't ignore last year. Rodgers was just 13th overall in fantasy quarterback scoring. He had just 2 games all season with 20-plus fantasy points. That's a really low number. He threw for less than 3,700 yards, failed to reach 30 total touchdowns on the season, had just 1 3-touchdown game all season. I just don't think he's the same player as past years. I know he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, want to prove everybody wrong, but I just think with all the good QBs out there in fantasy land this year, I'm avoiding Rodgers. I just don't think he's worth the risk, in my opinion.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Alarm Fantasy Football. I'm Howard Bender. I got Andrew Cooper and Britt Flynn here. If you missed that conversation on Superflex draft strategies, you can obviously rewind here on the old YouTube page. You can sit and watch what we got coming up now, and then go back and rewatch it afterwards as well. And again, Superflex draft strategy article in the draft guide from John and Pemba. It's definitely a must. All right. So yesterday's show, again, you can find that on the Fantasy Alarm and Better Sports Network YouTube pages. Yesterday's show, Britt and I covered a massive amount of ADP talk. Players we liked at their ADP, players we didn't like at their ADP, players who were undervalued, overvalued, all sorts of stuff like that. And today here, Britt's got a little ADP would you rather, so that we can get Coop involved in this ADP chit chat there. So I would say that I think we should just kind of go down our list here that Britt created and each present to the next two people there. So that way everybody gets a chance to say who they want and go from there. Britt, I turn it over to you. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much for that marvelous introduction. So yeah, when I put this list together, it was players who were very, very close in ADP, less than 1.5 spots away. And I used that on the aggregate ADP over at fantasyalarm.com. So the first one that I have is Garrett Wilson, who's going at an ADP of 18.3, or Amon-Ra St. Brown at 18.37. So Coop, who do you want?
Anybody that's followed me for any length of time knows my answer to this one. And honestly, I'm not that crazy high on Garrett Wilson. I just personally feel Amon-Ra St. Brown is a bit boring. I need to hear them say his role is going to change, because you can't really get that. I know people keep saying like, oh, Jameson Williams is suspended for 6 games and DJ Chark's gone and blah, blah, blah. You can't get that many more targets than 148. How many targets is he going to get? 100, 200, like 160, 170? Even then, with a 7-yard ADOT, is he really going to be a guy that has 1,500, 1,600, 1,700? Like, is that in his range of outcomes? Obviously, you don't need him to have that. But last year on 148 targets, because of his 7-yard ADOT, the fact that he's not particularly big or fast, he only had 1,269 yards, something like that. Like, even with fewer targets, a guy like Jalen Waddle had over 1,300 yards. He had almost 1,400. So for me, Garrett Wilson, especially with the new quarterback, just presents such a higher upside because he can easily get the same number of targets. Last year he did, and he runs a better route tree. He's a better athlete, and the upside is just higher. So for me, Amon-Ra St. Brown is fine in your PPR leagues, somewhere in the second round. But Garrett Wilson is a guy that I'm taking towards the beginning of the second round. And I don't think it's entirely crazy for people that are taking him at the swing. There are guys I like better, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, boring.
I'm not going to say that he's boring. I mean, I think what we're going to see this season here is almost like a tale of 2 seasons for each one of these guys. You've got Garrett Wilson trying to develop the rapport with Aaron Rodgers. And we know that Rodgers is always a comfort guy. And so I could see that. I could see him leaning a little bit more heavily on Allen Lazard, or at least giving Lazard more looks than what we really kind of want as Garrett Wilson owners, simply because he's more comfortable. But I think eventually it turns around that Rodgers and Wilson really put something together for the duration of the season. And I'm banking on Rodgers, obviously, over Jared Goff. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown will see great targets early on in the season while we're dealing with suspensions, while we're, they're trying to sort themselves out in Detroit. But I'm not leaning on Jared Goff. I'm really not going to. I mean, I think that what he did last year was great and it was fine. But, I definitely think that more teams, now that they've seen the Lions, can kind of fixate on really rattling Jared Goff a little bit more. So I think maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown for the first like 2 or 3 weeks of the season is going to be better than Garrett Wilson. But if you're talking long term for me, I'd rather have Garrett Wilson as my guy.
My Jared Goff take is I truly think that at some point the Lions are going to look back at the time with Jared Goff the same way that the Kansas City Chiefs did with Alex Smith, where he's a likable guy and he can get you to the playoffs and get it done. But they're going to look back and say, man, I wish we had moved on to a higher upside player sooner, because Alex Smith made the playoffs. He's winning 12, 14 games, but look what happened when they switched to Patrick Mahomes. Night and day. And I think at some point the Lions are going to have to make that same type move.
All right.
Hendon Hooker, baby.
Folks, if you're watching on either YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, whether it's the Better Sports Network YouTube or the Fantasy Alarm YouTube page, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button too. You get notifications of everything that we got going on here, which shows are going to be airing at what time, and you can kind of just set your little watch list throughout your day. So just like, subscribe, just hit those buttons for us, please. It helps. It helps me pay Coop's salary.
That's right, dude. I'll be eating cat food, and my daughter will be wearing newspapers on her feet to school instead of shoes if you don't hit that like button. So please, thank you.
There you go. All right, Fancy Feast, you're up here to pick a pair for Would You Rather. What do you want?
All right, I'm gonna pick one here that I'm gonna put Britt on the spot a little bit. I've got one here, a player from her favorite team that's in this mix. It's going to be Tony Pollard at ADP 21.68 and Josh Jacobs at pick 22.21. So you can't really put guys that much closer together. Last year, Pollard finished as the RB8, Jacobs is the RB3. These guys, basically, you get the second round, and at the end there at the swing, you got to pick one of these guys. So, Howard, I'm going to throw it to you first as the non-Cowboys fan. Tony Pollard or Josh Jacobs, if you got to pick one there. No.
If I got to pick one there, I genuinely, I feel like I'm just going to go with Jacobs here over Tony Pollard. Once again, I mean, he's going to sign his franchise tag. He's going to play on the franchise tag this year. And Josh McDaniels is just going to give him volume. We saw this last season also, right? They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. And so the question was what they're going to do with him. Are they going to run him into the ground? Has he got that chip on his shoulder? I think that chip on his shoulder is still there, despite how great of a season he had last year. And I do think that they are just going to continue to run him in the ground. They didn't do anything to really shore up that running back room for him. So I'm not really that concerned about anybody poaching carries. So I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs here, slight edge over Tony Pollard. How about you, Britt?
So I like Pollard for all the reasons that you mentioned. The volume. I mean, you're talking Malik Davis and Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn and Ronald Jones behind him. Unless they sign somebody, come on.
I was just going to say, unless they sign Zeke, right?
Which then things change, and that's why we have a living draft guide that we adjust and adapt to things. But we're talking right here and right now, Howard.
Right now, okay.
So I think that the volume is there for Pollard. I do like his upside. I like his receiving ability. The edge goes to him for me because of Dak, and because we've seen what Dak can do. We've seen that he can check the ball down to Pollard. I'm very concerned about the Raiders' quarterback situation and their offense as a whole. When multiple players have spoken out about their offense, it just gives me a little bit of pause. And we still don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be able to go. And then you've got Brian Hoyer behind him. I mean,
hey, nobody runs that offense better than Brian Hoyer. Huh? Come on, we've seen that.
I mean, he knows it front to back, but can he actually run it? I know all of the Game of Thrones books, but do you think that I can act them out? No, I can't do it.
Brian Hoyer, he's in such an interesting spot because it's clear that he just keeps getting hired to be like a part-time coach.
And he's on the roster.
Well, the thing is, the contract as a player, because he's been in the league for so long, his minimum contract is like almost $1 million. So why in the world would he be a coach as long as someone still thinks he can play just a little bit? It's only a matter of time till he just goes to be a coach. But he's a genius for doing what he's doing. He's like, yeah, I'll coach your team. Costs $1 million minimum. and I'll be the third string QB or whatever it is. It's shout out Brian Hoyer. That's a nice little gambit he's got going.
All right, Patriots homer.
I'm just saying, dude. That's a good job.
All right, I'm up. I'm gonna go with this because I'm very curious about this. I'm gonna stay with the running back position here, because I know which way I'm leaning on this one here. I'm curious as to what you guys have. I'll start with Britt before Coop. Breece Hall, 30.33 is his ADP right now, or Najee Harris, 31.69. Before the injury, they were RB6 and RB22, but obviously Breece Hall with the knee injury. Britt Flynn, Hall or Harris, would you rather?
So I have not given up on Najee Harris yet. I understand that he was inefficient last season and everyone wants to harp on his yards per carry, but he was inefficient in his rookie season. That's his game. 3.9 yards a carry. That's solid. That's what you're getting. The Steelers did so much to shore up their offensive line. I think that this offense improves with Kenny Pickett in his second year. And to be totally honest, what we talked about earlier, I don't like drafting players who are hurt at the moment. And right now, we don't know whether Breece Hall is going to start week 1 or not. And I'm not willing to take that risk like I did foolishly on J.K. Dobbins last season and waste, third round capital on a running back who plays 6 games or whatever. So I'm going Harris. Even though Hall has the higher upside, I think that Harris has the better finish.
Yes. So if you are drafting right now, first off, I'd say be careful because John and Pemba will come and beat you up for drafting right now. Second, I would say that you have to be very careful drafting Breece Hall because not only is he coming off the ACL, and again, he's ahead of Javonte Williams, but still, this is professional football. These guys are playing at the highest level. To get back to that level, it's not just, take the cast off and run around a little bit. Like you got to get all the way back to that level. The other thing, as we talked about with the Cowboys, there's been a lot of smoke about the Dalvin Cooks or Joe Mixon could get cut. It's like now, if Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon and Ezekiel Elliott and Leonard Fournette and Kareem Hunt are all floating around out there and they're going to be signing for cheap somewhere, and this team has a guy coming off an ACL and there's all this talk about Dalvin Cook, that's just a little too much for me. With the Steelers, we can be fairly confident that they're not going to sign one of those guys to mix in with Najee Harris. So for me right now, it's Najee Harris, but it's just hard to, man, Breece Hall looks so good. Like how fun was watching Breece Hall last year? If he can, when he's back to fully healthy, we're going to be really excited about him. It's just right now I can't, but how much fun was that player, Howard?
I mean, it was great to watch. It was fantastic to watch. I mean, we haven't seen a running back dominate for the Jets since I guess Curtis Martin when he came over from the Patriots and followed Parcells. I don't mean to bring up such a sore subject for you there, Coop, but listen, that's the way it goes.
You don't mean to bring it up once a week for the past 5 weeks.
I'll do it. Britt, I think we got time for another one here. What do you got for us?
We do. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit and talk some quarterbacks here. We talked about Superflex quarterbacks and where we would take these guys earlier. So right now, I've got Justin Fields at 47.4 or Justin Herbert at 48.71. Justin Fields finished as QB6 last year. Obviously, Justin Herbert was injured, but he still finished as QB11. So I'm going to go Howard here. Who you got?
I'm going to take Justin. I think Justin is going to be the guy who I'm going to want to draft. Herbert. I'll take Herbert over Justin Fields. I'm not a huge Justin Fields truther. I like him. I think, obviously the rushing upside is great to have, but there's a lot of things that these Bears need to work out. And what kind of a passer is he going to be? I get it that they give him, another weapon in DJ Moore. But I mean, listen, I think Herbert in this offensive scheme that Kellen Moore, goes with here. He's got his weapons in Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. He's got Gerald Everett as his tight end. He's got a great extra wide receiver there in Quentin Johnston, who I'm a big fan of. And I think that, I think we undervalue Justin Herbert a lot because nobody was really, he wasn't out there being like, oh, my ribs. It's why I can't play right now. It's why I suck. He was actually just out there trying to get it done. So out of respect for Justin Herbert, he's my guy.
Yeah, I mean, he had third most passing yards last year of any QB, and now they go to Kellen Moore, like where they're going to throw the ball farther downfield. And when I think about my list, where I have the 6 guys, Herbert's in that 6. Anybody else outside of that, I'm taking a stab on a guy like Justin Fields and just going for the crazy upside because we know he had 1,000 yards rushing, but we've also seen this team last year had the fewest pass attempts per game that we've seen in legit 20 years. Like since the like leather helmet era. We're talking Steelers in like 2002 was
Back
the
when
last
sliced bread was the leading running back. Right?
time. Exactly.
He's better than sliced bread.
Yeah, the forward pass had just been invented and they were hesitant to use it. So like that's why like you look at his over under for yards with Vegas, 2,850. That's it, man. The only starting quarterback that actually has lower odds is Britt's favorite player, Desmond Ritter. So at 2,600. So I personally, I just with Justin Herbert and with Justin Fields, I'm gonna take the wait and see approach. Unfortunately, I mean, if Herbert's gone, if my 6 guys are gone, I will take him at 7. Which hey, that's for the amount of times they threw last year. That's still pretty aggressive in my opinion. But I want to see it, and if he's that good, I'll move him right up to 2 or 3 or wherever we're gonna have him next year. It's just why would I go crazy taking the risky guy when there's this guy sitting right there that I already know is awesome?
I agree. Britt, Coop and I need to know when your birthday is so that we can get you that Desmond Ritter jersey that you've coveted.
Earned.
No,
You guys are slandering me, and it's all on video. I have photographic and video proof of slander.
The chat has your back here. What's funny is that Sellers at no point here has had your back, but
He's on his route.
Scamper's got your back.
yeah,
Britt's
he's trying to work here.
and I'm against
Appreciate you,
it.
Scamper.
He's in here talking about it. I'm just saying Sellers has made other comments in here, but not defending the Ritter take. Let the record show.
You skipped over it. He said that he's been stacking a lot of Ritter in best ball. He did say that.
Stacking him with Bijan, you get points for handoffs.
I remember when I ate my first batch of mushrooms too. That was a whole lot of fun. There.
All right, Sellers off the hook. Sellers, you gave you too much grief, and we get Brett. You gave you too much grief this episode too. So you guys are all right.
There's nothing but love, baby. Listen, this is what happens. Like this is what I love. I love the fact that we, as the Fantasy Alarm family, like that we can sit here and we can discuss this. We can give each other a hard time about it because we know that there's nothing but mutual respect all around the room. And that's why I think this draft guide, that's why I think that this team works as well as it does, because I think that there's a lot of mutual respect. We can have differing opinions and just kind of talk through them. And listen, that's what you want. I'm sorry, that's what you want in a fantasy company. That's what you want when you're subscribing to a service. You don't want everybody being, the same play over and over again, because you need some diversity. You need some discourse in order to help make the decisions of what you need to do, what you need to learn as you grow and become a better fantasy player. I want to obviously thank Britt Flynn and Andrew Cooper. I want to thank everybody out there in the chat. You guys are buzzing in the chat. Makes me so happy to see. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you get it. And the Fantasy Alarm NFL Draft Guide. It's fantasyalarm.com/draft guide. Get that all pro subscription. Promo code Howard gets you 50% off your first 6 months. You're not going to be sorry. Coming up next, we got the Fantasy Football Game Show from our boys over at Front Yard Fantasy. For Britt and Andrew Cooper, I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.